Hello class, welcome to special occasion speaking. So we're going to enter our delivery unit, and as a way to assess our delivery unit, we're going to work on special occasion speeches, because special occasion speeches are ceremonial, they're often beautiful, we think about the wording, it's all about the delivery, and whether or not you're passionately and intensely connecting with your audience. So it's a great opportunity to pair what we're studying in terms of delivery with giving a speech. So let's do a quick overview of what special occasion speaking is, and then I'm going to talk about narratives and toasting. And that's because for your next speech, you either need to give a narrative speech or a toasting speech. All right, ceremonial speaking. So ceremonial speaking or special occasion speaking is the kind of speaking that we need to do that happens because of a particular opportunity or an event, and that's why it's called special occasion, right? We give these speeches because they're on particular occasions. And when we're giving ceremonial speeches or special occasion speeches, we're really working on who we are as a community, right? I mean, it's all about the event that we've come together for, so we're building a lot of community. We're teaching life lessons, usually not directly like, oh, listen to my advice, but rather here is my narrative story of life, and here's what I learned as a result of it. We are inspiring people. Usually we give speeches about people who are inspirational, or we give speeches about our own life to inspire, and it's another way that we sort of show admiration or love for people, right? So when you think about the types of speeches we're talking about, when we're talking about special occasion speeches, we're talking about introduction speeches, toasts or roasts, award speeches, keynote addresses, commencement speeches, tribute speeches like eulogies, or after dinner speeches, which is kind of a speech to entertain, or a narrative speech, which is a very specific storytelling moment, like the kind of stuff you see on podcasts these days. All right, so historically speaking, ceremonial speaking was called epideictic speaking, and epideictic speaking was ceremonial praise or blame speeches. These were used to either condemn somebody, like, oh, you're an awful human being and nobody should behave like you, or commend somebody, oh, you're amazing. And two of the qualities that all ceremonial speeches must have is, first, they magnify. Everything is more emotional. All the emotions, bigger is better. So when we're toasting, everything is sort of exceeding our expectations. Everything exceeds our emotions. We're only talking about the most positive stuff. We're only building the best of goodwill, right? When we're telling a story, everything is a little bit more climactic. Everything is a little bit bigger. This is why Texas tall tales are so enthralling, because of magnification, right? Like, sure, you didn't catch a 20-foot fish, right? But the point is, it was a really big fish, right? That's the sort of concept of magnification. The second is identification. We want to create familiarity and closeness with our audience. Our audience wants to know us. And so when we're telling stories, it's a way of helping them know us. And it builds a sense of almost family with them, right? Like we know things about each other now. All right, so now we're going to talk about narrative. And then after we talk about narrative, we're going to talk about toasting. And then the goal is for you to pick which one are you going to do. All right, so Walter Fisher writes the narrative theory of communication. So a lot of what I talk about is sort of based on Walter Fisher, but I have included with the class a handout for you for the process of writing your narrative speech. So if you pick narrative, you're going to want to look at those tips and go through that process. So according to Walter Fisher, a narrative is a conceptual framework like dramatism, like theater, if you will, for understanding human decision, discourse, and action. Basically, it's the way that we come to understand who we are, the decisions that we make in the world, the way we talk about the world, and the things that we do in the world. Humans inherently tell stories. We love to tell stories. We tell stories all the time about ourselves. And we love when stories are told to us. Basically, according to Walter Fisher, We live through narratives, which is why podcasts about narratives and who you are and you telling your story in the world, and our news reports that include stories of who we are in the world, right? Person of interest stories. Those things have been around forever. And long before we were a written society, we were an oral society that told our stories as a way of passing down values and knowledge. And we still do that. We tell stories about our communities, inside of our communities, to our families, to our friends. We listen to their stories. It's something we all do. It connects us. All right, so let's say you choose to give a narrative. Okay, so that means you're going to give a 6-minute narrative speech, right? This next speech is 5 to 7 minutes. Our golden goal is 6 minutes. All right, so the first thing is this speech is about you. All right, it's not a story about somebody else. This is the personal story. You're storytelling from your perspective. So you want to pick an event, an experience, or a ritual, right, that you're going to tell us about. You want it to be like a thing, because the point is to give us the sort of rich detail about it. And you might be like, well, how do I pick that? You know, it should be something that sort of formed you, that's been important to you, it's been defining, all right? It's like a big event. Not like a small thing like the day I walked to my car, but more like the day I came out to my parents. Because that requires a backstory and a front part of the story, and there's just a lot there. All right. Second, stories have main events, characters, relevant details, and a sequential order. So as you sit down to write your story, you want to think about all the parts of the story, all the characters. You want to make sure we understand the characters. You don't want to mention a character that you don't give us like some understanding of, so we can like know who, you know, your sister Brittany is. We want to know her if she's a core part of the story, right? It is a main event. So when you sit down to write the sequential order, keep in mind that you and the main event, you're the center. But all the relevant details, it's okay to take tangents that explain to us a relevant detail and then to come back. Just don't spend so long on the tangent that you forget about the main event. Third, the story that you tell us should be an emotional truth. This is what I mean by connect to a life lesson or a moral of the story. All right? This is your identity. This is about who you are. This taught you something critical and essential about life. All right? Tell us an emotional truth in your story. The purpose of the story should be to convey it to us so that you don't necessarily have to point out at the end. And that's why we should always, you know, carry our keys or whatever your life lesson is, right? Or always tell the truth, right? You can say that at the end if you want, very point blank, that that's what you learned. But we should know that that's what you learned by the way you tell us the story. Next, the story has to build to a climax. There has to be an intense moment. So you see I included this little chart here where it's like, okay, here's the beginning of the action and the rising of the action, and then it comes all the way up to its most intense moment, its resolution, its plot twist, the thing we never saw coming, or, oh my gosh, we're sitting on the edge of our seat. What will happen next? Did your life fall apart? What happens? And then all the facts come together. Right? All of the relevant details and characters in the main event all comes together and it brings us to a resolution. This is how the story ended. All right. So if you tell us a story, that's the process that you're going to go through for us. And you have 5 to 7 minutes to do it, which means that there's going to be a lot of rich detail. There are going to be lots of relevant details. All right. This story should be the story that tells us who you are in life. It comes down to this moment, this event, this experience, this ritual, all right? And it tells us who you are, and it tells us about humanity, right? Because that's what Walter Fisher is trying to say, is that, you know, by listening to your story, your decisions, your discourse, your actions, we learn about the human experience. All right, so maybe you don't want to narrate. Maybe you want to toast. I mean, look, we're all going to be asked to toast. We get asked to toast at graduations, weddings, right? I mean, any big event in life, you might want to toast. All right, so a couple of things to avoid when toasting. I'm going to start with the do's or the don'ts, and then I'm going to go to the do's. 3 things, and you can watch these links for examples All right, first, it's not about you. Unlike narrative, which is solely about you, the toast is not about you. The toast is about honoring somebody else. Keep it about them. It's not even about just your relationship to them, though your relationship to them is very important. It's about honoring them. Second, don't drink. Keep it minimal. Where there's toasting, there's adult beverages. Don't drink before you toast. It means you will lose control of your toast. Third, don't just go from the heart. Okay, don't wing it. Prepare. Think about what you want to say and make it all come together. You know, when you wing it, you risk saying things that don't belong at the event. All right, so let's talk about the do's. So the purpose of this speech is to celebrate. We are magnifying everything for the toastee. You're building community. Everybody here is gathered for the toastee. That's important because they don't maybe know your relationship to the toastee, and you're building a community, so you don't want to tell a bunch of internal private jokes, right? Because this speech is for everybody. You know, a toast is a great gift. You've been asked to give this once-in-a-lifetime gift to somebody. And, you know, I never want to hear about a student who walked away from that opportunity, because you won't get it back again. It doesn't come back. So you want to give them this amazing congratulations, and it's a great way of telling them how much you love them and building community around that love for them, which means the emotions are all heightened. And it's okay to tell the embarrassing stories and secrets and funny little tidbits, as long as it's all cumulatively about celebrating, right? Never embarrassing or humiliating, right? Just little funny things, all right? The upside is there's a formula to toasting so that you can do it right. Steps to the toast. First is the hook. This should be a short description about the toastee, right? It should be a little bit mysterious. It's the first line of your speech. It's not your name, all right? It's not, I want to toast my brother, all right? This is a short little description, right? Like, Aaron used to run around in tights, so I can't believe that today, you know, I'm giving him this amazing award for his, you know, whatever. And then everybody's like, Aaron used to run around in tights. What? All right. And then at some point, you're going to come back to that. But the point is, it's a speech that you're going to give a little hook, right? It should be a little bit funny or juicy or mysterious, or, you know, find a way to get us interested. You have lots of attention getters at your disposal. Second, the background. Like I said, you're all here for community, but the audience might not know why you're the one giving this toast. Some of them will, some of them won't. So acknowledge the obvious. Explain who you are, and, you know, give them some background in terms of your relationship. Like, we've been best friends for 25 years. We went to college together. We've been next door neighbors since I was 5. You know, you were the first person I knew from birth because you're my older sister, right? Acknowledge the relationship, even if you think everybody knows it, right? Explain why you're giving the toast. Now we're getting to the core of the toast. It's the 1, 2, 3 punch. Okay. So this section explains the core of the toast. The core of the toast is storytelling. All right. So if you learned anything from narrative, now is a good time to apply it. And the more stories you get to tell is dependent on your time. When you don't have very much time, you only get one story. The more time you have, the more stories. So as you can see, over 5 minutes, you could probably tell 3 stories about this person. The stories should be life lessons, identity of this human being, right? They should be emotional truths, different emotional truths. The idea is to use each story to highlight something amazing about this human being that you're toasting, and they should be different, amazing things. So ask yourself, what are 3 things I want to say about this human that I'm toasting? Like, they're dedicated, they're loyal, they're honest, right? They're giving, they're compassionate. Pick the 3 things you want to tell, and then say, okay, what's a moment in my life where I saw that, right? And that's what it means to tell a story. Okay, so now the key to a good story: strong sensory elements. We want to be there with you, all right? We want to be able to picture it. The more we can picture it, smell it, taste it, be in it, the more captivated we are. It's okay for somebody to be a little bit embarrassed in one of your stories. All of your stories should not be embarrassing. Now look, This is about gauging who can handle a little bit of embarrassment. Because, if I was toasting my mom and I was going to make her the subject of embarrassment, well, she's not going to take it very well. But I could make my brother the subject of embarrassment while I'm toasting my mom, and my brother can totally take it, and my mom is going to find it hilarious. So you don't have to make fun of the toastee. All right. You can tell a story that's just a little bit embarrassing about yourself. All right. Or about somebody else in the room. Remember, all the stories are about the toastee, but it's okay if the little bit of embarrassment, the little bit of juicy isn't about the toastee. Gauge who can handle it in the room. Next. You got to have a climax for your story. All three of your stories, right, should come to an intensity or a plot twist or something hilarious happened, right? That's the whole point of the stories. Remember to all tie all the stories back to the person you're toasting, all right? Including the audience in this story that happened between you and a person increases their identification, right? And that's part of the goal here, is identification. All right, now we're on the very last part of the toast, the clink. The clink is the end of the toast. It's how we know it's done. All right? In narratives, we know it's done when you get to the moral of the story. In a toast, we know it's done when you get to the clink, and that's where you raise a glass, you thank the host, you offer good wishes and congratulations, and you make your sort of last sentence, the official toast, if you will. Right? To the beautiful bride and groom, may you have a long, healthy life with beautiful children. We love you and we're excited for you. Cheers. All right? Or salut. Or to the bride and groom. Right? That sort of end point. But when you get to the end point, it's not just to the bride and groom, go. All right? You're going to raise your glass. You're going to thank the host. You're going to offer the good wishes. Then you're going to do that final to the bride and groom, salute, here's to a wonderful life now that you have your doctorate degree, whatever it is that is at the end. Congratulations. And then you drink, and you all drink together. That's really important. Don't drain your glass before, and don't go up with an empty glass. And that is toasting in a nutshell.